Giving everybody definitely a chance to definitely get in where they fit in before we begin. Giving everybody a chance to get in before we begin. Hopefully, everybody is awake and ready for this particular training. I know I'm starting early in certain uh sides of the globe, but we got a lot to do, so much to do, so little time. And again, those of you that are interested in signing up for the Syntax Trust Mastery classes, they started on February 8th. You can definitely do so by giving a call to the office at 561 873 2125. Again, you can give us a call if you're interested in enrolling into Syntax Trust Mastery class, which started on February 8th for the new year of 2024. Um, this will be a continuation of a series dealing with the DTC, DTCC, and fast training. We do a lot of compliance work with various different institutions. We actually utilize arbitrage, digital arbitrage, if you will, and we also utilize accounting arbitrage to kind of get a lot of the things that different clients may need in terms of capital raising proponents into a proper position. By doing so, we got to go through a series of courses, classes, and implementation dealing with digital and accounting arbitrage. We also have to utilize arbitration to do trust settlements and disputes, in that regard. And we also provide resolution and remedy for all parties that are under the insurance and reinsurance platform. All these things had a tendency to run into a tandem, so we decided a few years ago to put together this curriculum, and this is the end result. We're at now part 32 in that regard. For those of you that are interested in getting the additional trainings, please make that request to 561 873 2125 so you can definitely get in where you fit in. What I'm gonna do, because I know I got a lot of people all over the place, and I want to make sure we get everything to everyone in terms of what they need, is I'm going to kind of go slightly backwards in order for us to come forward. I'm now going to change screens and go to what we call our LBO manual. Now, LBO manual is one of these tools, these resource tools that allow you to really understand how LBOs and LCOs operate, which is the primary proponent for what we use for capital raising. We're going to be coming from chapter 4, which deals with the universe of investments. And what we always tell our students, um, don't believe anything that we say, just simply we challenge you to challenge it. We ask you to go out and do the due diligence and resource, because if you listen long enough, you definitely will learn something. In chapter 4 of the LBO manual, it starts out by saying the universe of investments. Private markets belong to a world of finance, even though they remain far from being only a financial asset class. The analysis of the universe of investments show the specific nature of private markets. They are the only financial technique able to follow a company or an asset through each step of its existence, from inception to turnaround. Moreover, rather in the investment process, the methods of investments or investment monitoring, which distinguishes private markets, is the importance of the qualitative analysis over the quantitative data. So, it's a qualitative analysis over a quantitative data. In that respect, human intervention is really the core component of private markets. You can see that in chapter 5. I had a very interesting conversation with someone earlier, and we got into this whole, is AI going to take um, over everything and individuals are going to be obsolete? I simply reminded the practitioner that I, and this is just my opinion, but I kind of think we need to look at it more like this so we can fully embrace it. AI technically is not here to replace human beings. People who are using AI is going to replace those humans that are not using AI. So That's where we're at, in my professional opinion. So the faster you're able to adopt that into a certain workable principle to help you be that much more efficient, I think will definitely increase your ability to be, to be relevant in the oncoming onslaught of provisions that are being brought forth. Private markets investing in finances. Private, let's be clear. Private markets investing finances private, that is not listed on the stock exchange, companies or assets through provisions of debt or capital. And you can see that on the figure 4.1. Private markets investing targets. Private markets investing targets the full range of equity and liabilities of a private company or assets by providing equity, convertible debt, and debt. Equity investments in private companies are classified as private equity. This is the debt provision to private companies as private debt, and capital and debt provided to finance private assets as private real asset investments. You can also see that on the figure 4.1. And this figure 4.1 shows a series of investments to invest in private markets. These instruments a source can be a source of innovation. For example, a convertible debt combines features associated with debt for risk management. There's the insurance. And equity for performance generation. That's the reinsurance. Investment instruments. These instruments can be adjusted to specific investment cases, but rely on the existence of an adequate and efficient or enforceable legal environment. You can also see that under Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. Other private market investments and instruments, notably the real asset sector, are rather recent and some are still in the making. As we will see in the broader between different sectors of the investment is pyrus. For example, in business reconstruction and business restructuring, it is often possible to acquire the equity of a company, and we'll label this as turnaround capital, for the symbolic amount or sum of its debt to later convert it into capital, what we will call, in parentheses, distressed debt. Convertible debt itself is at the broader or a border is at the border between equity and debt investment. Some assets listed at the same some assets listed at the time of investments will eventually be acquired and delisted. That means public to private under an LBO. So I want you to kind of think about that. There are certain asset classes that are in a certain capacity. We're going to call convertible debt as the border that goes from equity to debt. All right, when you are at that border, you're actually moving assets from a public proponent to a private proponent. That convertible debt allows the public to be converted into the private under a leveraged buyout mechanism. This is why it's very important for most of our practitioners to really structure a lot of what they're doing into an LBO proponent, because it will be essential to how you navigate. A lot of non practitioners are trying to use conventional methodology to get a lot of this stuff done, and then they kind of in their own way, and not because it's not that it doesn't work, it's just in their mind. The body goes where the mind is. They have not conceived the fact that debt can be converted. They have not looked at the accounting principles such as current expected credit loss provisions and also the deaggregation of income statement expenses. They haven't utilized those proverbial accounting spaces. So accounting arbitrage, which is what's being practiced, can't be fully conceived by the practitioner because they're stuck in a conventional methodology. You got to remember that the generally accepted accounting principles are connotative. They're connotative. And a lot of individuals who are stuck in a connotative concept is based upon that practitioner's perception of things. This is why if you were actually prepare tax returns, send it into 5 different individuals with 5 different backgrounds, you will get 5 different amounts of what you may owe or may not owe. So it's not quote unquote edged in stone. It's based on perception. And most practitioners take on sometimes the influence of who they're loyal to. And again, if you want to see where someone is loyal, you look at where they're spending their capital and receiving their benefits. That's where their loyalty lies. So when I see a lot of practitioners utilizing cash on a balance sheet, they're utilizing generally accepted accounting principles. They are stating on those 1040s that they are quote unquote this, that, and the other under penalty of perjury. I already have a really good idea where their loyalty lies and their perception is anchored. But that doesn't change the fact that there are other ways of looking at true capitalization and valuation. And again, we teach most of our practitioners to study the LBO, LCO model, and at every instance, structure each conveyance in that regard. There's a very specific conveyance that we're talking about. You know, what you may call money, we may not, and that is the best way for us to say it without getting anyone in trouble. I'll continue. It also says these companies tend to be small and mid-sized and show very low or even no volume of daily um, share trading. In many respects, in many respects, these listed companies are comparable to their private equivalents. So, this is the other side of what we train our officers to do in this regard. We're looking for individuals who not only can understand this philosophy, but make it very applicable when it comes to raising capital, because you can utilize an accounting principle, which we've coined as recapture recovery, in today's training for trustee training, and also for some of you guys that are going to be in ethical hacking. We're going to really dissect the AI tools that are being used to not only do this with what we call audited returns, but also create a plethora of variables that can be leveraged in this regard. Now, I know this is a lot to drop on you first thing in the morning, but I'm trying to get you prepared for the week and days to come because there's so much to do, so little time. They say the early bird catches the worm, and I'm simply saying if you want to definitely be relevant, you're going to have to definitely get yourself into the game and get into a certain mind state for you to totally be able to take advantage of the world's greatest wealth transformation. Um, this will be a continuation in regards to the DTC, DTCC fast agent class and training, which is entitled the DTC, DTCC fast class part 32. 32 is going to be broken up into a series where we're going to talk specifically to those of you that are agents with our affiliate organizations such as Go Capital and North Avenue Capital. We're also going to break out into the tools that are tangible for those leverage opportunities dealing with digital arbitration and also accounting arbitration. Then for those that are going to be more into the ethical hacking space, we've already started using our flagship software, which is called Solver. It's a Linux-based program. It's a very good tool to get what you can't get from a lot of accounting and tax software because of the parameters that can be now linked to AI. So I think it would be to your advantage to definitely prepare for what's on the horizon. Again, grand rising to everyone. I would like to say, I hope you guys had a very eventful and prosperous quote unquote weekend. For those of you that shared with us in Happy Holy Day, I appreciate the love and support in that regard. For my practitioners and students who will be implementing in various different spaces, get your coffee, get ready because we got a lot of stuff we're going to cover in a short period of time. And for those of you that have been tracking what we put out last week, keep in mind when the markets open up, you're going to see something very unique that you haven't seen in over the last 40 to 50 years. So it's imperative that you really start getting these perceptions down so you can take advantage of it. And this is figure 4-1 that they was talking about. Just to give you a kind of a physical representation. You understand that at the very top of this, you're dealing with common shares, preferred shares. You got common account, what we call a current account. You got the mezzanine, PIK, etc. I want you to understand that real assets, assets backed financing, it sits at the bottom, and this is what we call the when you hear me refer to things running in tandem, this is what I'm referring to. Assets are always attached to resources. These are the real assets. And so you have to understand that there's levels when it comes to equities and liabilities and assets. And there are certain accounting principles that let you go, and just like we just seen right here, literally lets you go from a public perspective, and then you delist. The delisting is so critical. But again, we're not allowed to talk about that outside of dealing with entities that are in what we call the private investment public entities, or what we call PIPE. So if you're talking about entities that are under what we call PIPE, we can talk about LBOs and LCOs in that regard. But a practitioner who is unfamiliar with that is going to commingle that position in their thinking. But again, it's not impossible. It's just the body goes where the mind is, and we have to agree that we can always learn if we just take the time to do so. Again, I appreciate everybody's time and energy for definitely being up at this, early AM to kind of get in where they fit in with all of this. Last but not least, I'm going to touch on some of the things, and this is from a manual that I usually keep very close to my um, chest, if you will. This is one of my banking law manuals under cases and legal, prospectus. This is 12th edition. I just want to just read this to you so you kind of get a gist of where you should be versus where a lot of people are. We're going to talk about the commercial fund transfer. Funds, and I got and throughout the remainder of this particular quarter, we're going to focus in on operating circular 10. We're gonna focus in on Regulation Z and Regulation J and Regulation X of the Federal Reserve System. All of these things spell out a very detailed order of process when it comes to M3 asset conveyances. And what I just gave you is kind of like the primer. There are many different institutions, as you get in this last phrase, additional banks will be involved. So, in the example of what we just read, there may be a multitude of other institutions involved in the actual commercial fund transfer. And understanding the proper UCC sections will improve on your implementation when you're using a UCC 1, a UCC 3, or a UCC 5, or all three, which shall, in my opinion, should be done in tandem. Hope this information has brought you to a certain level of awareness. Finish up, get your coffee, get ready. Remember, all we're offering the truth, nothing more, nothing less. And remember, if you listen long enough, you definitely will learn something. And with that, the day is the day. So stay tuned. Give us a call at the office at 561-873-2125. Our next section that we're going to be bringing is going to be the actual income tax implementation, which is going to be for our loan officers, and then we're going to work our way down. That is going to be a total breakdown of the new software induction, which was just released during my solar return, which is the new 2023 tax solver platform. With that, I am going to say peace and love, family. Peace and love.